Hello everybody and welcome back to Jalopy Shop. Today we're going to start working on getting this cross member tacked up. We're going to go around and weld these seams. This is the piece that goes into the floor pan as facing towards the front of the car, pointing this way, back of the car this way. So all we've done is just kind of take the pieces out and assemble them in place right here so that we can tack these up. I'm just going to go through and put some tack welds on here, and then we'll set it back in the car where it's going to eventually live. We've also got our two pieces that we're going to use for the rear seat mounting point, or the rear of the seat mounting points. We're going to set those in place. We're going to take our seat, we're going to set it back in the car again, make our marks, and then we've got some brand new flanged nuts here, some M10 nuts that we're going to use, and we're going to put those in, weld those to the bottom sides of these cross members once we figure out where it's going to be located, and get ready to actually bolt the seat physically into the car. So stay tuned. We're going to get to welding, and we're going to get a seat in a car today. Well, I'm going to cross our fingers. Okay, so I'm going to put on our gloves here. Turn on the welder, and we'll put some welds on here. Alright, still cold in here. Put my hat back on. Just 3 little simple tacks just to keep it in place. It's strong enough for doing the kind of stuff we're going to do right now, just testing and making sure everything fits nice and good. Working with clean metal obviously is great because you get good penetration, you don't get a lot of splatter. See here on the back side, see if I have something to point this out with, and I do, a brand new Sharpie. So let's see if we can get this up to where you can see it. You can see we've got these little dots here. We've got really good penetration all the way through on these welds, and that's what you want. I'm no welding expert, but the guys will, you start looking on the internet and reading about welding, and penetration's what you wanted. We started from this side, and the weld went all the way through and penetrated both sides. So do your own homework on that, but clean metal and a good tight fit makes for good welding. So let's get this set in the car. We'll get our other 2 little pieces set in the car, and we'll start making marks where we're going to put our hole. seat back out, looked at where these marks ended up, and I'm not really excited about where it's sitting on these brackets. So one of the things that I think needs to happen is this the top of this old seat rail is interfering with where the placement of the whole seat is going to end up. I think the solution is to cut the tops of these seat rails off. And that'll allow the seat to drop down just a hair more onto the tops of these brackets. And then I think we'll be able to push the seat just a bit more to the inside of the vehicle as well. We still did need to make this clearance cut here, so don't feel that this was wasted effort, but I think the next step is going to be cutting that rail off, and then we'll put the seat back in and test fit some more. Let's see if making that extra room gave us a clearance we need to get the seat to slide that way. So like right now our mark is here. We'll see if we can get these marks to line up a little bit closer to the center of the brackets that we made. Yes, we did. We have made this fit a lot better side to side. Over here I can actually get my finger in between. That is a good sign. We need to make sure that our front is still going to be level when this is pushed down. So it looks like the seat now is not quite as level as we'd like it to be. But it doesn't look like our sliders are level either. So one of the little issues was the front cross member I didn't have pushed forward enough, which brought it up, which brought this side up, which allowed it to level out. Now I'm holding down this side of the seat onto the platform that we built right now, but if we look, we are pretty much level if I'm holding it down. So at this point I can make a couple of marks on here, and I'm going to see if I can get into that little hole there. Make a mark across the front of that rail, put another mark there. I can see if my rails are front to back even with each other. But for now, we're going to grab the tape measure, we're going to head back to the workbench with this one, and we'll get the front done, then we can bring the seat forward on the rails and work on the back a little bit easier once it's kind of tacked into position. Okay, so I just quick grabbed our little wheel and ground off the flashing from where we drilled those holes. Now we're just going to set up and we're going to weld these nuts right to the back side of this bracket, so that when we have them attached, you're gonna have the threads exposed through the front. So super easy to make that work. I'm going to grab a couple of these little test nuts here. They're actually extra bolts from my spare bin here. Just going to use those to hold it in place. This one doesn't feel like it's very well threaded, so we're going to Alright, so we know our holes are drilled where we want them. Now we can just set up the welder and we'll tack these in place. And take the But before we go back to the car, we got one more thing we need to do. So this is all bare metal. There's nothing protecting it from the elements. We need to get something on this metal to make sure that it doesn't rust, because the whole point of going through and restoring a vehicle and getting rid of rust is to not have it come back. And we certainly don't want the piece that we just made to start rusting. So what we're going to do is, since we're going to weld it into the car, I went to my local welding supply, and I got some primer that is actually weldable primer. It's got a high zinc content in it. You can get them with copper or zinc content. It works like any other primer, but you can weld through it. So we're just going to spray the back side of this just to give it some protection. Maybe at some other point we'll come through and we'll relieve some holes in here. You could use there's products you can get to make really fancy, nice radiused holes. I don't have any of those products, and they're really expensive. I've been looking up ways to kind of do it on my own and make one, but right now we're just going to get this. We're just going to throw some primer on here. Another use for your heat gun is to dry out paint quicker. Just don't burn it. Now we can head back to the car. We've put our cross member back in. We've primed it from underneath. We've got it where we want it. And the next step is we're going to tack this in place just to hold it, because we don't want it to move now that we've got it where we want it. So we're just going to come in with the welder. We're going to put a couple of little quick tack welds on this, just enough to get it so it doesn't move. Some of you may have noticed a little bubbling and popping that was going on when I was tacking this in just to get it in place. It's because I didn't clean up the metal good enough. You're going to get that bubbling and popping when you're not welding clean metal. So make sure it's clean before you start welding onto it. I'll have to definitely go through with a wire wheel and clean everything up around wherever I'm going to weld before I final weld this piece in. But it's tacked in place for now. It's definitely not going anywhere. Let's grab the seat one more time. We'll set it in and see if we can get these bolts to line up. Having a little bit of difficulty getting this one to start. So after a couple minutes of finagling, we have this seat mounted in this car, just bolted in. It's not impact safe by any means, but it's bolted in, and that's great progress. So now we know that the front is where we want it. We've got room for our rails. We've got room to slide the seat forward and back. We can actually slide the seat forward. And we'll move to working on the mounts for behind the seat. We are set up behind the seat now. So the first thing we're going to do is I'm going to make a hole. If you guys will remember, there's a little peg down there, a little locator pin. I'm going to make a hole for that locator pin to sit in. And given that it's right in front of our hole that we're going to put our nut and bolt through, I'm going to make some marks, and then I'll triangulate it with a straight edge, drill the hole, and be right back. we drilled our hole for our bracket where we want it. Now we're just going to lift up the back of the seat, slide it under where we want our locator pin to be, and we'll make another mark where we're going to drill the actual hole to weld the nut on the back side of. And then we'll clean this up and weld our nut onto the back side there, making sure that we weld it onto the correct one. The worst thing you'd want to do is get through all this work and then realize you didn't put it on the right hole. Now we'll have to be careful when we're welding this one that we don't weld over our other holes, so we'll probably just weld around this side. That'll be plenty strong for what we're doing. For the time being, I just threaded another nut on there to use as a spacer. That will be good. Since this is a grade 12 bolt, I'm not worried about having a little spacer in there for the time being. And we can replace this hardware before we actually drive in the vehicle. So that's it. It's actually in and bolted to the seat. Now we just need to go through and do a little bit of tack welding. Then we can take the seat out once these brackets are bolted in. We don't want to do a lot of welding because, you know, we don't want to put any burn marks in our seats. So we'll probably wrap the seat with a welding blanket, do our tack welds, take the seat back out, and then we'll put all of our proper welds on everything all the way around. Now that we got the seat out of the way, we can get a good look at what we've got going on here. So we need to go through and wrap some things up. We'll probably change a few things here. We may extend these pieces back into each other to give it an even cleaner look. But we'll probably get into that next time. In the meantime, we're kind of running out of time for today. Next time you come back, I'll probably have a bunch of this a little more secure. I'm going to make a few more pieces here. I'll show those to you next time. And then we'll be able to start on the driver's side. And things are going to go a lot quicker. Oh, now that I have my helper here, things are going to go a lot quicker. Thank you, girl. Thank you very much. So until next time, thanks for watching Jalopy Shop. And get out there and work on something.